Hello everyone, so welcome back to another module, and today's topic for this module is corporate HR and cheating scandals. As all of us are aware, this specific topic, which I mentioned here, has been ruling the media for the past couple of weeks. But this is a topic which I did not want to do it. I definitely didn't want to do it because it's kind of a gossipy topic, and I didn't want to address a gossipy kind of a topic because then it will be giving a lot of focus and concentration on the specific scandal and the people and the positions that handled by the people involved in these kind of scandals, which I didn't want to give too much of attention to. But I had been receiving a lot of messages and calls from the professionals that I know who had wanted to know what is the kind of things or how the HR would generally handle these kind of situations and how the organizations should safeguard themselves from these high-end kind of scandals. And this topic is specifically for, I have mentioned it as corporate HR and cheating scandals. So it is for large corporations rather than small to medium organizations. For small to medium organizations, HR would be, or the people involved in people management would be handling things quite differently. So this topic is specifically for corporate HR who are associated with large corporations or the larger organizations. So I hope whoever is interested, please go ahead, okay? And as I mentioned, I didn't want to do it, but many requested me to understand what is an HR consultant's view on this kind of topic and how are they supposed to handle these kind of situations. So in this video, so starting with an introduction, secondly, a comparison analysis of HR's role that can be understood by the masses. Like, people doesn't generally understand what is the role of HR. Many people just doesn't understand. They think it's just simply the payroll. That is all the job or the job profile of an HR. So I'll be giving a comparison analysis on what is the role of an HR. The third point is general definition of a leadership, the senior leadership, how they should conduct themselves in corporates. Then the fourth point would always, as I mentioned, eradication is the best option rather than putting the organization or its employees in a difficult situation and then trying to fix the situation. It's always our best is to eradicate the situation completely. Okay, so how we try to eliminate these kind of situations in our corporates. And the fifth point was one or two examples that how we handled, how I faced these kind of scenarios in the corporate when I was working as a corporate HR or as an HR consultant giving consultation to HR corporates. Of course it will be the conclusion of this module. So let me begin with this topic. Okay. So what is basically corporate HR? Basically, people always, when people doesn't know what a specific function does, like every other function has their corporate profile defined. For example, marketing, they know, okay, there is a marketing job that they're doing. They're trying to market the organization to a larger audience. Finance, they their work is primarily focused on numbers. Sales, yeah, they have to bring in the clients for handling, for selling out their products or services. So every other function is very, very clearly defined as compared to HR. Whereas HR, whenever HR name, generally people hear, oh, it's like the knowledge is very limited. So I'm going to give a comparison analysis of a corporate HR in terms which can be easily understood by people who are not aware of these corporate, corporate words or the corporate designations or corporate departments. So basically, I would define HR, and I see a lot of people telling about HR. Oh, they did this. Yeah, they are the people who created the problem. So a lot of people, because they're not aware of what HR does primarily, so they are not able to define what the HR is doing in an organization that is actually helping the organization in the long run. So I would compare a corporate HR to the administration services of the imperial times. Like for example, when we had kings managing the organization, kings or monarchies ruling the world. Okay, those times we had the king or the emperor, and they had the royal family who were the actual heads of the kingdom or the country or the state or the place. Okay, similarly, a corporate, we can consider it as a kingdom. It's a huge setup with a lot of employees working under a single umbrella, which is headed by the senior leadership. Okay, under them, in a kingdom or in a palace under the royalty, they have something called the administration services, okay, or the administrative part, people who are working for the royalty. So they basically ensure that the royalty survives, right? They are protected against scandals, they are protected against corruption, they are protected against the enemies, and they have to ensure, the administrative service of the palace has to ensure the longevity of the palace and the royalty. So that is the primary duty of a administrative service of a royal kingdom, or under a king or the queen or the rulers. Similarly, when we consider corporate as a kingdom, an organization with more than 1,000 employees, or even less than, I think 500 to 1,000 can be considered as a large organization or a corporate. And then when we have so much of employees working under single umbrella, it's the HR rule or the HR department which generally ensures that the safety and security and the code of conduct and the policies and procedures of an organization, similar to the survival of a kingdom, HR ensures the survival of the organization and its people. So I hope you understand how HR's role is significant to the survival of an organization. Okay, I'm not talking about the financial aspect or the marketing aspect as I mentioned previously. This is for people who doesn't understand how HR contributes to an organization. Okay, so this is the primary role of an HR of an organization, is to ensure the well-being of the organization and its people. So now as HR, it's very important for the HR to conduct themselves in such a manner that, because they are the flag bearers of the survival of the organization, so it is essential for them to commit the least number of errors and mistakes from their own part. Okay, so this is the HR analysis or a comparison to how we can relate it to a real life scenario of what we have learned or what we have read, like the survival of a kingdom. Okay, that's the first part. Now the second part, the leadership analysis. It is always the leaders or the top leaders of any organization and their vision defines the culture of that organization. For example, in this case, okay, I do not want to mention the names or the people involved. A case like this, if the leadership decides to be vulnerable, then it trickles down to even the smallest position holder in the organization. There will be a lack of ethics, there will be a lack of respect for the code of conduct, there will be a lack of respect for the policies and procedures implemented in the organization. So it is always an organization's culture starts and very thoroughly depends upon the culture and vision of the leadership. So it is essential that how the leadership is envisioning his or her organization. What is the kind of culture that the leadership is trying to plan to implement in the organization is very, very crucial or essential in running a successful corporate business in the current era. So it has to be, the leadership has to make sure that what is the kind of culture that they are going to implement in their organization for the longevity of the organization. Okay, now, so this is the third point which I was going to discuss. When I searched for the definition of a corporate scandal, what I understood is a corporate scandal is a significant event involving unethical, illegal, or negligent behavior by a company or its employees, often leading to reputational damage, financial losses, and legal consequences. So a corporate scandal, we cannot, So a corporate scandal, we cannot consider it as a simple event or a situation. Any organization has to take the scandals very, very seriously. So we have known, or we have learned from history, that many kingdoms have went extinct only due to some scandals. Scandals can be so powerful that organizations were shattered, went extinct, their markets, they crashed in the markets. Similarly, how the kingdoms went extinct, the same way scandals can kill any organization. So we have to ensure that the organization or the people involved with the organization doesn't end up in scandals. So when I say scandals can definitely impact the employees and the organization. So as an HR, what we can do is to ensure or eliminate the possibility of scandals happening in our organization. So when we are trying to eliminate the possibilities of scandals occurring in our organization, how can we eliminate the existence of scandals? What we did, or what I did as a corporate HR, was to create a employee handbook. We created an employee handbook as part of our HR policies and procedures. It was a big thick book. Like, we had straightened down all the HR policies and procedures and code of conduct involved, or that has to be mandatorily followed by all of our employees who are joining our organization. So we had created something called employee handbook. Okay, so we gave this employee handbook to every employee during onboarding process. The first 1 week, we gave the employee this employee handbook, and we asked him or her to go through the employee handbook for the first 1 week. And after they completed the onboarding process, we asked them to sign an acknowledgement letter wherein they say that they are aware of the code of conduct for the organization, how they are supposed to conduct themselves in the organization setup, or how they are supposed to conduct themselves towards their colleagues, how they are supposed to conduct towards their subordinates, or how they are supposed to conduct themselves towards their senior managers. The same applies to everybody in the organization. So they should be aware of how they are supposed to conduct, and if there is a misconduct, how it is going to impact themselves or other parties, and what are the consequences they will be made to face by the organization. So they're very, very clearly aware of the consequences. I've come across many people who say that they weren't aware that they're not supposed to have a relationship with their colleague. I was surprised that even at this time there are people who are not aware that they're not supposed to have whether it's consensual, non-consensual, that doesn't even matter. Many people are not even aware that they're not supposed to have any personal kind of relationships with their colleagues. So they are not aware. Okay, this incident, when I introduced this corporate idea, was in the year, it was almost 10 years ago. Okay, so almost 10-15 years ago this has happened. So in those days I have come across people who said that they are not aware of how they must conduct regarding personal feelings in a corporate setup. So this kind of employee handbook primarily gave them a time to think how they're supposed to conduct themselves in a corporate setup. So when they sign, they know the consequences. If they are going ahead or against this kind of setup, they're aware that how it is going to impact them. Now the next part is about one or two examples that how I handle personally as a corporate HR or as an HR consultant for corporates, how I handled these kind of scenarios where there were relationships involved in the corporate setup and how we had to tackle it. And again, I'm not going to mention the people's names or the specific situations or anything like that. One situation, like there was a corporate where we were acting as a consultant for the corporate, and they didn't have any policies, procedures in place at that time. It was a young organization. They were growing at a very fast pace, and they wanted a proper corporate kind of policies and procedures, and we were building it for them. So at that time, before the policies and procedures were put in place, they already had a couple who were in a relationship. So one person was working in, I think, in the project departments, and the other person was working in the finance or accounts. So they were already in a relationship before the policies came into existence in the organization. So we are dealing with humans here, right? Humans are going to be humans with feelings, whether it's in a corporate setup, social setup, entertainment setup, any setup. Humans are going to be humans, and we are all going to have feelings. So, we are all going to end up in relationships, and we need to make ourselves, all of us are aware that all of us have certain, responsibility towards our jobs to ensure that where do we draw our line with regard to our feelings and relationships. So this particular couple, they were already in a relationship, as I mentioned, and this incident happened at least, I think, 19 years ago. Okay, those many organizations didn't have proper policies in place at that time, proper HR policies in place at that time. So, and when this thing came to our notice, so then we communicated to these people, and then we shifted the project person who is working in the project department to a department which is not directly involved with the person's the person's fiance. Okay, and we ensured that we also encouraged the person that if they can move to a different organization, it would be better, so there would not be any conflict of interest when they're executing their job. Why corporates insist on not having personal relationships or conducting with a complete professional, ethical manner in organization is that whenever the relationships and emotions are involved, there is a lot of chances of corruption, illegal activities, and people always try to help. If the person is going to be a family or is part of a family, then there is going to be discrimination. Whether the person is in a managerial position or in other positions, there is going to be discriminations in handling the person who is part of the family. Then there is going to be leak of departmental informations. There will be problem to confidential information which has to be confined to specific departments. Or for example, if there is a person working the R&D, the information is going to be so very confidential. And if the person is going to work from home, and if by any case their spouse or fiance is or any relative is in their home, and they come across the confidential information, then the chances of the information getting leaked is more, or the chances are much more. So these are all some of the examples why the corporations insist not to involve relationships in the corporate setup. Why corporates generally discourage relationships within the corporate setup. But there are certain organizations which encourage family members to be hired, so that the organization's culture is very different. I have come across an organization where the husband and wife was running the organization, and they prefer to hire relatives because they prefer to have that kind of a structure in the organization rather than the hardcore, the hardcore professional tried rule. They did not prefer. So as I mentioned previously, the leadership determines what is the kind of culture of the organization they are planning to implement. So similarly, this was one of the scenarios where we had to separate the couple specifically to avoid any conflicts of interest between the departments or the people involved in the organization. Another example was, it was kind of a scandalous situation. There was a gossip or a scandalous scenario where a senior manager was accused of having a situation with with a third party vendor, And this got escalated to a situation where even the family of the senior manager was getting impacted. So the senior manager came and spoke to the HR department, to the HR head, and as we had to get involved, or I had to personally get involved and communicate to the family of the senior manager to ensure that there was no confusions or scandalous and the situation was not escalated to a scandalous scenario where we had to bring in evidences and the communication details and the meeting details. Everything was brought forward. Luckily, we had CCTV cameras everywhere in the organization, and we had evidences available for everything. For every meeting conducted, for every situation which was done, we had cameras available, and so we could use it as a advantage to clarify the situation or the confusion. And we ensured that the situation didn't escalate to a scandalous scenario, and the family of the senior manager understood the situation, and then they stayed together, and now they're thriving. And we are happy as HR to help the family and our people to thrive rather than be disgruntled about any situation or a scandalous scenario. And sometimes the scandals are not always with evidences or with situations actually concretely happening. People try to create rumors and create confusions and create problems. At that time, we always look for evidences. Without evidences, we cannot accuse or we cannot corner any professional on the basis of rumors. So that is a hard and fast rule that every organization has to stand by. So these are one or two examples that how as corporate HR or as a corporate HR consultant that I personally have solved HR related or scandalous personal situations of employees or people working with us. And there are so many humpty number of situations where we had to get involved with the personal scenarios of our managers or peers or employees. Okay, those stories we'll keep it for some other time. So right now I just wanted to include one or two examples here. So in this module, what I discussed are definitely an introduction to what is corporate HR's specific rule, and people should understand what they are doing for the organization. Secondly, what is a scandal? What is a scandalous situation that can impact an organization negatively? What is the leadership culture? How does the leader's vision and the leadership's vision towards having a culture for the organization, how it impacts the organization? Then, of course, how can HR ensure that these kind of situation does not occur in an organization? And one or two examples from my personal experience of handling people's personal situations which could have escalated to scandalous scenarios. And so that is all for now. As I always mention, these are information which you will not get from AI or Google. These are information or knowledge based from my own personal experiences, what I have gained being an HR professional, which I'm sharing over here. I hope this will be helpful for HR professionals out there, and even for professionals who are not HR. You can understand how you can control a scandalous situation, or how you can ensure that a scandalous situation does not occur. Again, I'm not going to tell you that this is going to 100% eliminate any situation of error among the employees or the organization, but we are trying to prevent as much as possible. So I hope this module is helpful to you people as always, and I hope this can be of good impact to all the professionals out there. I do wait for your comments and ideas. As always, these are my own personal views, my own personal experiences, my own personal things that I have learned from my own experience. So I don't know till what extent it is impactful or helpful. From my side, I hope it is helpful. Whatever is your feedback, please do let me know through your comments and your messages. I really appreciate your time here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Until we meet next time. Bye-bye.